Balake, where's Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is here, everyone. Joining me once again, channel favorite, Captain Tommy Scoble. How's it going, Tommy?
I'm so happy to be here. How you doing?
Oh, I'm so happy because we are ready for war. We're going, well, I'm flying to LA tomorrow to be there on Thursday. You're going to be there as well for Danny Masterson sentencing.
Yep, very much looking forward to that.
Very, very much. And guys, before we get it kicked off here, let me remind everybody of Tommy's channel, The Lifeboat, on YouTube, the story of how a convicted bank robber and addict came out of prison to change man with a dream. This is how Captain Tommy started The Lifeboat. So check that out, guys. Okay, got some new, fresh information hot off the presses. Okay.
Right.
Now, we did a video a couple days ago because I got an email from a sheriff's deputy who works at the LA County Jail where Danny Masterson is being held. We found out he's actually being held in the medical section of the jail, very isolated, has his own shower even. He does not go out into the yard for his hour of outside time every day. He stays inside. He stays on his bed. He reads his books. And you and I were throwing around some ideas of, did something happen? Are they keeping him there just for protection? And anyway, I was contacted by somebody close to Danny, and they said Danny is the word alcoholic gets thrown around casually a lot. Whatever the truly medical term is for
he suffers from alcohol abuse disorder.
Yeah, physically addicted to alcohol. He drinks
Absolutely.
First thing in the morning. He drinks all day long. He cannot go to bed without drinking.
When you get to that part, there's only two drugs. This is kind of my wheelhouse of what I do, but there's only two drugs on the planet that if you quit cold turkey will kill you, right? Benzodiazepine, so Valium, Xanax, that whole family of drugs, and alcohol. If you are deep enough into the disease, like you were talking about with Danny, and you quit that stuff cold turkey, it will kill you. And this is the second leading cause of death in jails where he is right now. So they would have to put him on what they call the benzo protocol. That is the withdrawal off of alcohol, where instead of letting you go cold turkey, they give you something like Valium. It's usually not Valium, but they give you a benzodiazepine, usually Ativan. So it's lorazepam, and they will give that to you for 3 or 4 days, and then they will step you down to a lower dose of the same medication, and then to a weaker benzo. But they can take anywhere from 7 to 9 days, depending on how much alcohol the person was taking in and how dependent they are on the stuff. But that would absolutely keep him up in medical. That's pretty heavy.
In your opinion, would that condition and how quickly he would have experienced the withdrawal symptoms of that condition explain why he all of a sudden decided to cooperate with the pre-sentencing investigation?
You know what? It could have. I mean, it absolutely could have. It's the whole pre-sentence investigation thing is, I think probably my gut tells me on this one, Aaron, that what happened is somebody said to him, if by some chance we don't win this appeal, this is going to be something that haunts you for the rest of the time that you're in prison. Somebody had to have, and I mean, if anybody in his sphere of influence is talking to anybody else, someone had to have said, and we talked about it here, a bunch of other channels talked about it. If you do not participate in that, you really are setting yourself up for a whole lot of hate, later on. And so I think that probably had something to do with it. But the fact that, I mean, there's no getting around psych at this point. There's no way he's not talking to psych, and he would have had to tell somebody very, very quickly. I would imagine that he went to medical within the first 24 hours, because if not, he would have gone into what they call the delirium tremens, where you get the DTs. And at that point, people seize up, and it's, like I said, it's the second leading cause of death in county jails in America.
Wow. What about if he requires alcohol to sleep, which my contact says he absolutely could not sleep without alcohol. And let's say he already detoxes off of alcohol. I'm guessing he's still going to need help sleeping, and with some sort of medication, and he wouldn't be able to get that medication correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just getting this information from our previous conversation.
Right.
If it did not come up in the pre-sentencing investigation that he has these conditions, he needs this medication, then he would never get it.
Correct.
am I wrong about like, is it pop when you detox from alcohol, do you now sleep like a baby? Like, I don't know.
No, absolutely not. In the best of circumstances, when when someone detoxes, and what you're talking about is, that's as bad as it gets, right? That's alcohol dependence, where you're shaking at 10 o'clock in the morning if you don't have alcohol. And we work with people like this all the time. And some of these people I've been working with for 2 years, and in some cases 6 and 7 months later, they're still not sleeping. It is a slow process. A lot of it has to do with how long you were in that abusive cycle, and the amount of alcohol you consume daily. What kind of alcohol? There's a difference between what hard liquor does to you and what wine does, even if you're drinking ridiculous amounts of both. But either way, he would have had to definitely come clean. And if he's that bad of a drinker, then somebody probably said to him, look, you better get down on paper that you have this drinking problem, because this is something that is going to come up again and again and again. He's not going to have any access to, there are programs they can do in there to help people like that. There's a lot that you can do if you're willing to plug into that system. But again, you can't just show up later and say, oh, by the way, this is how bad my alcohol addiction was. You go to the rehab within the prison, which is they call an RDAP, which is a residential drug or alcohol program. But they're going to go immediately and look at his pre-sentence investigation, and they'll say, you don't have an alcohol problem. And you can say, no, I do. I was drinking a fifth a day. They'll pick up the thing and go, no, you don't. If you did, it would be in here. And that's honestly what it comes down to. You can't get into rehab. You can't do anything. You're not getting the help if you don't come clean.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, this person who's known Danny for a very long time said his dependency on alcohol is such that when you saw him sipping that coffee on the way into the courthouse, on the way out of that courthouse, it wasn't just coffee in that cup.
Wow.
He needs it to operate. Which I'm told is one of the reasons he was always considered by the president's office and the Celebrity Center. He was always sort of kept on the periphery a little bit. He wasn't being pushed up the bridge. You'll hear Danny Masterson didn't get a lot of auditing. He didn't do a lot of bridge. He never went clear. This was part of the reason he couldn't go without drinking. It was considered a long-term chronic ethics problem with Danny. Let me see. There's a question here from Russ Hampton, or a comment. They can put him on Suboxone. It covers a lot. So what is this? Does this refer to the withdrawal process or the after maintenance period?
If they were to put him on Suboxone, it has a component in it, which is Narcan. It's called naltrexone, but it is the drug that they give to people who overdose on opiates. And it is one of the ingredients in the drug Suboxone, which normally is given to people to help them not do opiates. However, that drug does wonders for people who have problems with alcohol. The naltrexone, just the part, what it does is it makes it so that the brain, it changes the brain chemistry, and it does do an awful lot for people. I don't know. Russ would know more about what California allows. They may be handing that out in California prisons. I know that the last law that went in, the First Step Act, did make it available in some situations. So he may have access to that. However, if what he said when he went in my experience, if he does not cop to being an addict and exactly what that problem is, then he's going to have no love on any of that. You're just not going to have access. It just depends on how honest he was. I'm sure that they have a real good idea of his alcoholism, because he would have been exhibiting really, really serious symptoms.
Right. Once the detox period is over, is there some sort of a maintenance drug that they need to give someone after that, or would just in general?
If the person was in the real world, like naltrexone, they give to the person because you can continue to drink, right? It will still do the same thing to you, but it makes the reward center of the brain not send any feel-good chemicals along with it. So basically, the reward center isn't saying, yeah, good idea, drink more, which is what happens with addicts. That part of the brain drives them. And there are things you can do for that, but they're not going to have any desire to do that for them inside. Because really, the purpose of it is so that as you continue to, he's not going to continue to do anything. You can get booze in prison all day long. He could get booze. With money, he could get it. However, he's on NC status. I just don't see it. The person that sells to someone with his kind of crime is going to be in some pretty serious trouble. So I just don't see, unless he learns how to make it real quick, I don't see him pulling that off.
Can we tell the viewers what NC status means?
That is, you've got nothing coming. Like you go up to somebody and ask for assistance and people just look at you like you're not there. If they don't hit you, they're just not going to listen to you. If you're on a telephone making a call and someone needs to use the phone and that's your crime, they'll just go up, put their finger on the receiver, tell you to leave, and then they'll use your phone. You know, it's if you're getting ready to put clothes into a washer or a dryer, it's not going to happen. You know, someone will walk in and be like, "Nah, man, put your clothes down. My stuff's going in there," and that's you got nothing coming. And he will just take that because there's really not much other choice. Even if you're a tough guy, there's no choice. And I don't think, you know.
Wow. You mentioned in one of our previous streams that sleeping drugs, anything to help you sleep, is very hard to get in prison. I'm not sure. Did you say that or something like that?
No, what it is this. Like, it's the drugs like Lunesta, the stuff that we think when we think sleep medication, Ambien, Lunesta, all of the stuff that we see commercials for or whatever. Those are narcotic. And they are not, they do what they can to not give narcotics out in prison because people don't swallow them or they regurgitate them back up and they sell them because narcotics are really popular. So they don't like handing them out. So they'll give him stuff to sleep, but it's not going to be what he's used to. What they usually do is use a drug that is not meant as a sleeping pill that actually will make you sleep, like trazodone, which is not a sleeping medication, but they give it out to people, or Seroquel, which is really not a sleeping medication. It's for, it's for some pretty heavy, it's for some pretty heavy stuff, but they hand that out.
What about just the ZQuil stuff? It's like a diephedrine or something.
Oh, diphenhydramine. No, they're not handing diphenhydramine out in prisons. That's the, although there are yards where you can get Benadryl, but you're going to get it in a very limited amount. You might be able to buy 1 or 2 of them. So you're looking at like 50 milligrams of diphenhydramine, which probably isn't going to do a lot for a guy like him.
Is diphenhydramine considered too strong?
It's not. It's just considered. What the problem is that when you got inmates, if you give a guy diphenhydramine, he's going to take 75 doses of it. Right. He's going to buy 9 bottles of it, and he's going to. That's what happens with stuff in prison. Like you see guys stumbling around, and you go, "Boy, guy looks wasted." Yeah, he took his entire prescription of psych meds in one day. Like the things that people realize that you would never learn any other place because they got nothing but time on their hands. It's I wonder what'll happen if you eat 25 of these kind of. That mentality.
I get it. Dave Owens says, might it be opioid withdrawal? That's rough too. I'm told Danny's not, that wasn't a thing with Danny.
Right. Opioid withdrawal is tough. It's the first 72 hours of it are almost unbearable. That was my substance of choice. And it is really, really bad, but it's not going to kill you. People like to tell stories about people who died in with withdrawal from heroin. If you have a bad heart, if there's something really, really wrong with you, but across the board, it doesn't kill. Whereas alcohol, whether you're healthy or whatever, if you are addicted enough to alcohol, your body will shut down if you don't have it. Plain and simple, it happens. So, by the way, if you're thinking of stopping drinking, this is the public service announcement. Talk to your doctor before you quit. For real. Don't do it. Don't do it cold turkey. It kills a lot of people. Be careful.
Yeah. Kyle Cowden says, in the fire department, we had 2 protocols. One for heroin withdrawal, which isn't life-threatening. ETOH. What's ETOH?
I am not sure what that abbreviation stands for.
ETOH was and got Valium.
Oh, alcohol. ET. Yeah, I don't know what ETOH. And we got Valium. Yeah. If you give somebody Valium, this is why they use benzos to take somebody off on that protocol, is because it will do to someone in acute alcohol withdrawal exactly what alcohol will. So in an environment like a county jail or a prison, they're not going to go, we're dropping off a 5th of bourbon. You know what I mean? Try to make it last 2 days so that you're not sick. So they just put you on a protocol where they're giving you a tranquilizer to do the same thing. Yeah. But he's not going to get that. Nothing that he wants long-term is ever going to happen. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that he was taking on the street, there's no hope for that. He's not getting any of that stuff. Right. It's just not going to happen.
All right. Russ Hampton says, okay, Suboxone is basically a long-term for diehard addicts of both alcohol and pills, and they will give him trazodone period for sleep. Okay.
Yeah. And trazodone is not, it really isn't a sleep medication. It will put you to sleep, but there's all kinds of other problems with it. If I would imagine a guy in Hollywood, that has a sleep issue probably had a really nice medicine chest. You know what I mean? Like I always did. You know, you have a bunch of different stuff in there for when you're having problems. Sleep for him is going to be a nightmare. Number one, it's not quiet. You know, number two, the lights aren't under your control. There's a lot of things that make it very, very difficult to sleep inside a prison. He's really going to be having a bad time.
Yeah. Pat Shore says he takes trazodone and it makes him sleepy. I know people who take trazodone for sleep. I do.
It absolutely will make you sleep, but it is not a sleep medication. Like if you look it up, that's not really what it is intended to do. And you know, there's Seroquel does the same thing. Seroquel will make you sleep for 16 to 18 hours. Like it will knock you unconscious, but it is not a sleep medication.
Is that over the counter? Is Seroquel over the counter?
Absolutely not. No.
Oh, okay.
Not. That's
I was like, I could use some of that, but
boy, and it will make you sleep. But it's got a few side effects. But there are these are what they give out to people because you know the sleep drugs. What you think of when you think of a sleep medication, they're not handing any of that out. They call it the formula, right, or formulary. And there's a list of drugs on the formulary for the prison. Nothing that's not on that list you're going to get. Like even if you need it, you're not getting it. They'll put you to a medical yard or some other place, but there are certain drugs that you just are never going to get in population. It's just not going to happen.
Okay. Let me see here. Pembroke Love says, are you telling me that alcohol was the long-term ethics problem that stopped him from moving up the bridge, but raping people was just A-okay? You know, it's actually funny to consider this because Danny's documented history of abusing women is something that a Scientologist would go, auditing can fix that. But you're not allowed to go into an auditing session if you've had alcohol in the previous 24 hours. So in a very strange way, the alcohol problem was a bigger problem in terms of Danny going up the bridge than his other problem.
Well, and you know, when he said it's A-okay, there's really something to that too, because they kind of made an environment where getting away with this. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was doing this to people that were going to run to the police instantly. They kind of fostered an environment where, yeah, it's all bad.
Yeah. Care for JCYT says Seroquel is not on the formulary in California prisons.
There we go. And Seroquel ain't no joke. It's they would give it to patients in the feds and people would sell it. And it's just, yeah, it's a very, very serious. If you need to go to sleep, there's not much better.
Check this out. I have a question about this comment. Heather Joy says trazodone is an antidepressant. Seroquel quetiapine, I don't know how to say that.
Yeah, that was pretty close actually.
Is an antipsychotic. I am continuously amazed at how drugs that are intended for one thing, so one thing that seems pretty specific, which is an antidepressant. Now I know antidepressants and antipsychotics are not the same thing, but like for me, an antidepressant is something very, very specific, whether it's an SSRI or something else. And you're like, oh, by the way, you can also use it as a sleeping pill. I go, so does that mean that everyone who's taking it as an antidepressant is just like, you know, exhibiting narcolepsy? They're just like, you know, falling asleep all the time?
It's unusual, and it's only with certain of the medications, but they call it off-label, right? You know, using it for an off-label purpose, and it seems to be getting a lot more popular. It wasn't so widespread, but now that like Russ was talking about with Suboxone, it was certainly not designed originally to be given for people who have problems with alcohol abuse disorder. They're also testing it in other countries right now as an antidepressant, right? So they're giving out a synthetic opiate, you know, antagonist and agonist to people to try to keep them from being depressed. It's amazing what they're starting to do. And you're right. It does make you wonder, like, so this is a sleeping pill for this guy, but it's going to make this guy not depressed.
I know. I've heard, you know, similar things when people talk about Adderall, for example. They go, well, if you have ADHD,
correct,
it calms you down and allows you to focus. But if you don't, it's like a stimulant and it speeds you up. And I'm like,
it's like doing blow and you bounce off the wall.
I'm like, you know, I know there's people out there smarter than me. I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to this, but that doesn't make a goddamn bit of sense to me.
You know what? It doesn't, but I've seen this in action. A long time ago when I had a problem and I lived in Texas, there was a girl that used to trade me a prescription for a prescription. And I would give this girl stuff that would make you bounce off of the wall. And it would knock her unconscious. She would take the stuff and literally go to sleep. And she would hand me her stuff. And yeah, it just had the exact opposite effect. It really, what it does is it still makes people a little wired, but it's the focus, right? And now it allows you to, you know, hyper focus in on something. But yeah, if you If the brain chemistry is different, it will really bounce you off the walls. Another drug he's not getting inside, by the way. Everybody takes Adderall. He's not taking it inside. There won't be any Adderall.
I see a really funny comment on the subject of off-label stuff. Rogaine was developed to treat ulcers. A side effect was hair growth, so it got prescribed off-label. Now that's all it's used for. Well,
That's
why don't
pretty
they
funny.
still use it for ulcers?
Right? Right? Not enough money in the ulcers, right? There's tons of money in the hair.
Oh, there you go. That's actually a really great point. Okay, so when I first was contacted about this alcoholism issue with regards to Danny, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But my second thought was, he got in 3 months ago.
Right.
If he went into medical for that reason, it's not why he's still there.
Absolutely. You're 100% right. That is not why he's still there. But I have thought about this at length. And I think that there's a couple of options for this. Number one, he got back in there for the alcohol withdrawal protocol, which would make sense. Bed in medical, everything, like that's where you would be if you were doing that. And they got him in there for that. And after 3 or 4 days, thought, you know what? Dude's not in population. Everything's been kind of going good back here. Let's just not have to deal with any of this crap. And we'll just leave him right in here until the time comes where we can ship him. I think that's a possibility, high profile, all that. The other option is that, he started talking about wanting to unalive himself. You make those comments and they take that crap really, really seriously. And he may already be learning to work the system. He may already be thinking to himself, I like this room a lot. There's nobody in here that looks like they want to hurt me. There's nobody yelling my name or saying, he's probably in about the nicest place he's going to be for the rest of eternity. Maybe like this is honestly not his billion-year contract, but for the next 30 to 40 years, he's going to be in a place that's probably not as comfortable as the room he's in right now. He's certainly not going to get another single. Those days are going to be over real quick.
Here's a comment that gives me a really disturbing visual. They prescribe Viagra for Alzheimer's. I don't know if that's a joke, Ian, but if that's not a joke, it's still pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, actually. I can think of 40 or 50 really funny things to say, but I won't do that on your channel.
All right, guys. Well, I just wanted to have an update on this subject of Danny being in medical. There's also, from what I understand, COVID is making a pretty strong sweep through the prisons right now, as one would expect, because it's kind of making a pretty strong sweep through a lot of places right now, including my household and many others. Does that, and maybe they're like, I don't know, they can't lock everyone down. I doubt they're protecting Danny just to keep him from getting COVID,
No, I think that, they would just, everybody involved, even the next prison. If you're the warden of the next prison and you find out that they're dropping Danny Masterson on your doorstep, you're not happy. There's nobody along this chain from now till the end of time that are going to be happy to hear Masterson's getting transferred to their yard. And that's every guard, every inmate. There was nobody that wants this dude showing up there. I mean, the inmates, they'll take it. They'll have fun with it, but nobody wants that guy on the yard, and that's kind of the reality, I think, going forward. I think they would like to just, be able to wash their hands of this crap and go, he didn't get hurt here, know. But as far as the, the epidemic popping back up, right? I was in there. I was riding out prison. The end of my prison stay was the beginning of that pandemic. And what they do inside, I don't think you could possibly imagine just how bad it gets. I just do not think you can imagine. They just lock everybody up. You're not leaving. You're just going to stay in that cell for the rest of the time. Like we were on lockdown 24/7. They would bring you out 3 days a week to take a shower. And you had 16 minutes, right, from the time you stepped out of your cell to get to the shower, take a shower, and get back, right? And if you don't do that, then the next time they'll just leave you in there and you won't get a shot at it. So you got to do everything you got to do really quickly. Check an email, send an email, take a shower, whatever. You got, 3 times a week you get out for 15 minutes. It's not fun.
Wow.
And then they come by about every 6 days and, do a test on you. And the tests that you take on the street and the ones that you take in there, I swear to you, man, they stick this thing so far up the nose that when you see it happen, you think there's no way that's possible. It looks like a magician. Make this disappear. I'm not kidding. It was awful. But that could be doing some stuff. But I think more than likely this is just their attempt at not wanting his blood on their hands and get him out of here. Push him to the next. Like we keep talking about, right? There was the cops, then there was the court. Now there's the jail. The jail wants him out. You send him to his last home, and we'd be done with him.
Yeah. Well, this might answer the question. Pembroke Love says, I've had patients in critical rehab intake in prison for 6 months plus because we find them to be medically fragile. I got to tell you, Danny Masterson does look like a fragile gentleman to begin with. I mean, if you've seen him, he's a fragile looking dude.
Here, he looks a little fragile. I got to see him standing next to Tom Cruise and David Miscavige, just for like perspective. I'd like to see where he falls in that.
Yeah. Well, guys, Thursday morning, 7 a.m., me and Tommy will be at the Clara Shortridge Foltz Criminal Justice Center. I'd like to extend a friendly little invitation to a mutual friend of Tommy's and mine, Tony D'Amato. Tony, you got a big mouth. You talk a big game. I'd like to extend an invitation for you to join us at the courthouse. Come and say hi. We'll have a little sit down. We'll get a little drink or something. But you know where we'll be and when we'll be there. So I guess we'll see if you're there as well.
I'd love to buy him lunch.
Yeah. Guys, check out Tommy's YouTube channel, The Life Boat. Got a lot of amazing and awesome content over there. All right, everyone. Thank you for hanging out with us this afternoon. As always, thank you to everyone who watches until the very end, and we'll talk to you soon.
All righty.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click